Good afternoon, everyone. I am Linda Welbrock, the founder and CEO of Leading Women Entrepreneurs and the Force for Change Awards. And we have a dynamic, incredible guest with us today, who is in the private equity category. We have Ed Zimmerman, who is the chair of the tech group at Lowenstein Sandler and also an adjunct professor at Columbia Business School. In addition to that, he found an incredible platform called Venture Crust. So welcome, Ed. Thank you so much for joining us today. And we can't wait to hear all about who you are and what you do. And we're going to start with what is your mission as the chair of the tech group at your company?
So first, thank you for having me. So I've been a partner at Lowenstein Sandler. I've worked at Lowenstein Sandler for almost 30 years. We're a law firm and we represent lots of companies and the venture and growth and private equity funds that invest in them, among other things that we do. And so our goal is really to provide terrific, substantive, and business savvy counsel to leading entrepreneurs and the investors that back them.
So important as a woman who has really had a passion for innovation for over a decade and in many different forms from an academic standpoint, and then went out to start a company to connect women with investors. We know that the statistics for women especially, but all entrepreneurs are really scary, even 10 years into this story. So talk to us about your mission at Venture Crush, because I think it's in alignment with trying to beat those statistics and actually flip-flop them.
Yeah, the numbers are pretty sad. And in 2013, I published a column on the accelerators page of the Wall Street Journal, where I serve on the panel of experts, that decried the overwhelming whiteness and maleness of people in venture capital using 2011 survey data. I published a companion case study on that at Columbia Business School, which I've been teaching there for years. And I also talked in that article about the fact that more than half of all VCs went to a small cluster of the same 10 schools. So there's also homogeneity of thought and a very, very closed network. One of the things that we've tried to do has been to open that network and to remove some of the structural bias that really has hit the venture world and the private equity world. And so Venture Crush has been a platform that enables us to onboard startups and connect them through the organic building of relationships with investors and other founders and other executives in tech so that they can expand their network without having to do a pitch day or demo day, and so that they can be part of a community. And we have consistently been making a strong effort to be inclusive and equitable and diverse.
I see that from, your extremely impressive application and from some of the articles that I've read about you. You really are equalizing the playing field. And I know access to strong networks has been the major struggle for women. Talk to me about, are you doing anything outside of the tech world, or is it just tech entrepreneurs that you're focused on?
So professionally, I spend my time in tech, and I also do some investing and obviously the teaching at Columbia. I'm entering my 16th year there, and I taught for years at Rutgers Law School in Newark as well. And outside of that, I serve on a couple of boards. One is a college in Southern California called Harvey Mudd, and the other is an organization that has increasingly been in the news called CPE, the Center for Policing Equity, which deals with race bias in policing and how we're addressing the problem that has been on the headlines every day in the last several months and for many years before that.
Yeah, scary times, right? And I think having this conversation is part of the solution, and bringing awareness to what's going on and is so important. So we read about your human rights campaign foundation scorecard, which I think is a really important aspect to this, in not only being aware, but also having some sort of measuring tactics. So tell me a little bit more about that.
So Lowenstein, as a firm, feels that diversity, equity, and inclusion are super important. And several years ago, we made a decision as a law firm to work through the HRC scorecard requirements and ensure that we were a really welcoming and inclusive place for the LGBTQ community. And for me personally, I want to say in 2012, I published something inviting people to not do business with me if their views, if my views on marriage equality were problematic for them. I think that the LGBTQ community has been a major civil rights, has suffered from civil rights abuses in a really, really major way, even from folks who have been otherwise working toward equality and inclusion. And so for years, that's been really important to me, and it's been important to our firm. So I like to include that whenever we send info about our law firm, because I think that it's important for people to see that we care, that it's welcome. And I hope that it also encourages other people to show that they have made that effort and that they want to be an inclusive, welcoming place.
Absolutely. I mean, you are really an example of such a conscious leader along with your entire firm, and hopefully you pave the path for other, big, powerful firms like yours to do to make decisions like that, because they make a huge statement and they make a difference in the world without question. I read about your pledge against gender bias. How did that unfold?
So in 2014, I was on stage at one of our Venture Crush events, and I on stage talking to Aileen Lee, who was then at Kleiner Perkins and later founded Cowboy Ventures. She coined the term unicorn to describe billion-dollar valuation plus tech companies. And we were talking about inclusion, and we had teamed up on some things in the past. And we were talking about how so many panels were dominated at events, were dominated by men, and particularly white men. Mm-hmm. And I committed right there to not do that anymore. And a couple of months later, I published that pledge on the accelerators page of the Wall Street Journal. I think it was maybe the first one or one of the first ones in tech, 2014. So the pledge was simply no panels that were single gender, and no business dinners of, I think it was 10 people or more that were single gender or non-diverse, and a couple of other things. And also being just intentional and mindful about making sure that events and things that we were doing were going to be inclusive. I have maintained that pledge. The pledge did not, in my view, go far enough because it was a gender-focused pledge. And I think that for too long, diversity in tech and in venture has really meant white women. And we need to focus on race and intersectionality and LGBTQ. There are lots of ways in which we are socioeconomic, in which we are not embracing diversity in tech and venture in the practice of law. And so I have personally expanded it. Interestingly, I got a fair amount of outreach as a result of the gender bias pledge, but in that page of the Wall Street Journal, but very little as a result of decrying the overwhelming whiteness in 2013 of the venture world. So I'm smiling just because it's sad. And in 2018, Richard Kirby of Equal Ventures, which is a venture fund in New York in which I'm a small investor, published an article called "Where Did You Go to School?" And he also made public a data set of almost 1,500 venture investors. And his findings in 2018 were pretty much the same as my findings in 2013 and as the conclusions reached by the NVCA's own study with Dow Jones in 2011. Not a lot of diversity, not a lot of change in that 7-year stretch in venture.
It's incredible. I mean, again, I've been talking about the statistics for almost 15 years, and I don't see that much of a difference, right? I mean, it used to be less than 3% of all women had access to capital, and my goal was to just flip it and say 95% plus are getting access to this. So, you know, you're obviously an amazing leader. You have a mission. And I hope, you know, your legacy and your firm continue this good work because it's absolutely necessary. But anything that our organization can do to be a part of this solution too, please lean on us. And this is the lane I've been driving in for a long, long time. So I'd like to see it as well. But I want to just switch a little bit because you have a very interesting shirt on, and I don't think that the viewers can completely see it. So it says "Put a woman in charge," and I know we kind of talked a little bit about this, and I listened to the lyrics before the interview, which made me tear up. Honestly, it was like now it's going to be my new theme song. So tell me, how did you discover this song, and what do you think about it? Why do you like it?
So I have a friend named Kevin and Robbie Moore. They're lovely people, and Kevin is a 5-time Grammy-winning musician and has won countless W.C. Handy Blues Awards. He goes by the stage name Keb Mo. Okay. And Kevin called me one day and said, I'm going to send you a song that I want you to listen to and give me some feedback on. It's a demo. And I'm a big music fan, but Kevin knows I have no talent, and it's not like my friends in music are sending me songs to give them artistic comments on. And once I heard the demo, I understood why he sent it to me, because it was a political song. And I called him back and I said, it's great, but given the lyrics and what you're trying to do, you need to do a duet. This needs to be a duet with a woman. It can't just be. And he said, who do you have in mind? I get that. And I said, it can't just be backup. What about Rosanne Cash? And he said, I'm a fan. I've met her in passing, but I don't really, know her particularly well. And I said, I asked if I could call her, and about 5 minutes later, I was, looping the two of them together, because it turned out that Rosanne was a Keb Mo fan too, and they hadn't really played together. A week later, they were recording together, and then a video came out, and then Kevin and I hosted Stacey Abrams for a fundraiser together with my wife and some friends in our office in New York, and we premiered the song there at that fundraiser. And then Kevin walked over to my class at Columbia with me, where I was teaching a case study about him, and he played the song for the class. At the end of that, they didn't know he was in the room, although I think he's hard to miss, particularly with a guitar case. And and then it was included on his most recent album, which won the Grammy for Blues Album of the Year. Oh, so it's a really cool thing, and Rosanne is amazing and a political activist. And though I have no musical talent, it was, an honor to kind of just be briefly in the middle of the two of them, since Rosanne is extraordinary as well.
What a special moment. What an incredible story. I want to know where I can get that t-shirt.
I'll send you a link.
Okay, that's
Kind of Blue Music is Kevin's record company and site, and you can get all sorts of Keb Mo stuff there.
Okay, we'll do. After this interview, I'm going online. Okay, so our last question is, this has been a challenging time for everyone around the world with this pandemic, and you've made it accessible through all the platforms that you've talked about for entrepreneurs to still network with investors, which is incredibly difficult to network with anyone, but especially to have that access to capital. So we thank you for that. But my last question is, have you picked up any new hobbies during this pandemic?
No, not a single new hobby. I have been interacting very differently with people, and there are some hobbies that have been dampened and some that have become more important. So my bean grinding coffee ritual has been a source of some bonding and a daily ritual that has replaced the ritualistic commute for me. So, but no new hobbies, but I'll work on that.
Do you miss that that traffic, or are you over it?
Yeah, I don't miss, obviously I don't miss the traffic, but I do miss the demarcation points in the day and the demarcation points in the week and the kind of built-in crutch of catch-up time that gets created by the commute.
That's absolutely sure. I had my own little think tank in my car. You know, if we got stuck in that Holland Tunnel traffic from New Jersey, then it was like,
Yeah.
thinking time. So anyway, we are so honored to have you here with us. Thank you again. I'm going to say it. You are just, everything that you're speaking is just conscious leadership, the essence of that. And we need more people like you to kind of make the world aware of the possibilities. So we can't wait to celebrate you as a Force for Change honoree on November 2nd. Congratulations, and thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you so much. Take care.